So this is a video by someone who probably everyone knows. It's Tech King. He made a video. What if Zoro dies at the end of One Piece? And, I mean, I'm gonna say it right now. I do think that there is a universe where Zoro... I like how his serious face is looking back at me like, what are you cooking? Okay, so let me tell you this. And I do think that there exists a universe where the ultimate ending is Zoro sacrificing himself for Sanji. Alright? I'm gonna cook the idea, and then we'll talk about it plenty more. Okay, but let's watch this. Let's watch this.
Hope you're having a good day. Today we're going to be starting a new series on this channel. And as you could probably already tell based off the thumbnail and the title alone, represents a bit of a tone shift from what I normally discuss. Obviously still based around One Piece, but we're going to be delving a little bit more into the macabre and grim aspect of the series.
My favorite. I'm not joking. My favorite. When One Piece gets dark, sign me up.
Simply put, this is going to be a series where I'm going to sit down and make a video about each of the Straw Hats and if they were to die at the end of the story. As in, Oda legitimately kills off one of the main characters of One Piece.
Okay.
I feel like right at the beginning, I should say that if you are uncomfortable talking about such subject matters, even with fictional characters in a fictional story, because I understand a lot of people identify with these characters and they really like these characters. And in some cases, as in the case with Zoro, who we're going to be talking about today, this has been a character that's been around since the very beginning of One Piece.
I was about to say, I mean, some people have been following the series literally for like 20 years. You know, I keep saying like, WoW is the reason why I'm here. For many people, that's probably One Piece. You know, I've played WoW for 15 plus years, right? I keep forgetting that I'm like, oh my god, I'm like 20 years old. Oh my god, it's such a long time. But like, with One Piece, it's the same thing, right? So if one of them actually dies or suffers any sort of consequences, I mean,
out at the very beginning. So Zoro is a lot of people's favorite One Piece character, and in some minds, probably their favorite anime character, period. And I can understand why
really cool.
Talking about your favorite character dying might not be something you're into just as much as you would not be into talking about someone you actually know in real life dying. I mean, a lot of ways it could be viewed as like, I don't even want to go there, you know? So if you are uncomfortable with this, probably stop the video right now. This is probably not a series that you're going to enjoy very much. Why am I doing this now? I feel like because it's nearing the end of One Piece, that gets people thinking about stuff. How the story is going to end. How is the Straw Hats' journey going to end? And every once in a while,
I hate to say it, but I do think the final journey might involve someone perishing in a miserable death.
Especially because, you know, I talk about it online. I get rhetorical questions that are basically, you know, if you had to kill off one of the Straw Hats,
just an inkling,
which one would you pick? Or if one of the Straw Hats had to die by the end of the story, which one would you select to die?
Oh my god.
And I've answered those questions, not really thinking much more about it because I was so confident that Oda would not do that. And to this day, I still don't think that. I still don't think Oda would kill off one of the Straw Hats at the end. If we were in Vegas right now and I was a betting man, I would definitely put money on all of the Straw Hats surviving till the very end, going back to their hometowns, having their tearful reunions with their loved ones, move on to an epilogue, curtain call, the end on one of the greatest epics of our day. Perfect, all right? But you can't be 100% sure. You can only be...
Actually, with the final saga, I would probably be... If I were to bet, I would bet on someone very, very, very close to Luffy or someone on the Straw Hats, and maybe not the Straw Hats themselves, because I do think there's going to be some sort of breaking point to sort of incite everything that we see in the final saga. Sort of like we saw with Ace, right?
Pretty sure. And that's where I'm at. I'm pretty sure that all the Straw Hats are going to survive, but hey, I'm not the one writing this story. I'm not the one in the driver's seat. Oda could have a plan at the very end. It could have been something planned from the very beginning for all we know. And Oda could be like, you know, the only way the One Piece story will end the way I want it to end is if this person dies. So I decided to sit down and have a serious discussion about it. Today we're going to be talking about
very serious, like half an hour
Zoro
long.
dies in One Piece. Out of all of the Straw Hats, Zoro has come closest to death, I think, the most.
Yes.
Even more so than Luffy. Zoro has had plenty of.
I do agree with that. I do think Zoro is the closest to death at all times, basically. I think he has come to death closer to death more times than Luffy, and I think he's also far more likely to die in any of those events, you know? Not just because Luffy is the protagonist, but just because of what Zoro does.
Close calls in this story where, by all accounts, most people would have considered him to be dead. I mean, like, honestly, if it's revealed that Zoro died a while ago and he's a zombie walking around in some form...
That's why his hair is green. It's just like his zombie form manifesting through his hair.
You could kind of see that with him. Most notably, we have the scene at Thriller Bark when Kuma, you know, offered him, he's like, oh, all right, I'll let Luffy live if you take all of his pain and suffering onto yourself. Keep in mind, Zoro, if you do that on top of your already exhausted and injured body, you will most certainly die.
And then he does.
Zoro takes all of the pain without even second guessing it. You know, he understands that the dream of his captain...
It's like the pretty big deal about Thriller Bark in that sense is that Luffy was powered up, right? He was the Shadow Luffy, right? And then all that was transferred onto Luffy. And then all of that was transferred onto Zoro, which is like mega yikes.
Is more so than his own dream and even more so than his own life. This is something that Zoro has cemented in his character multiple times in the story. He does it again shortly after Thriller Bark during the time skip, or right before the time skip, when he bows down to Mihawk and even admits to putting his own dream on the side if it means Luffy achieving his dream. Zoro understands what it means to be the vice captain of the Straw Hats. He understands...
Let me give you a quick run through. Let me really quickly, I don't know, maybe he's going to talk about it later, but basically my thought process is that the way Zoro would die is because of Sanji, because Sanji's character in a lot of situations undervalues himself, right? So he doesn't think his dream is very, very important, and I think that would be like Sanji wants to sacrifice himself, and then Zoro ends up like Sanji wants to sacrifice himself for like Luffy or something, right? And then Zoro sacrifices himself for Sanji. And then we sort of have that, oh my god, they sort of hated each other, but obviously not really, right? And then Zoro just does this, and then Sanji's dream is sort of leveled up a notch because now he has another goal to pursue, you know? Because I think sort of the dichotomy of Zoro's burden of strength, and then Sanji many times not thinking his dream is valid and not worth pursuing, is sort of... It does bring up some interesting possibilities from a story perspective that I'm not sure I would want to see, but they could be interesting.
What it means to prop up his captain. I wouldn't say he knows this more than the other crew, because they all want Luffy to achieve his dream, and they're all indebted to Luffy for various reasons. But Zoro understands that because of just his position, because he was the first member that Luffy recruited, because he is the vice captain or first mate or whatever you want to call Zoro's position.
And he's also the only one, I'm pretty sure he's the only one who explicitly told Luffy, I will never lose again. He's already lost a few times, notably in Thriller Bark, you know.
He has...
Which, by the way, he literally was ready to sacrifice himself because he lost, so, you know.
To really exemplify this better than all the other members of the crew, better than Nami, better than Chopper, better than Sanji. He has to be the gold standard here for representing this, for, you know, supporting the captain, to the point where he will lay down his life for Luffy without a second guess. It is, for that reason, if we do reach Laugh Tale and some decision has to be made, like some sacrificial, you know, altar exists or something, and it's just like somebody has to die for Luffy to become king of the pirates, for him to achieve his dream. Now, as a little bit of a caveat to that scenario, if Luffy was aware of that, like one of his crew had to die for Luffy to achieve that dream,
I think instantly Luffy says it's me. I think instantly.
Luffy was made aware, he would immediately turn around and leave. He'd be like, oh,
or do that.
That's what we have to do for me to be king of the pirates. One of my crewmates has to die, one of my Nakama.
Because I think for him, it's like king of the pirates, who cares? I made it. I went to Laugh Tale. I've seen everything, right? Who cares? I don't want to be the king of the pirates. Though, I mean, that then brings up the question of what really is becoming the king of the pirates? You know, what is that?
Oh, okay. We're not doing that. All right, everybody, let's go get ice cream. That's how Luffy would go about it. But in a scenario, let's say, like very similar at Thriller Bark, where Luffy was unconscious and he was not made aware of this decision that Zoro made, and still to this day does not know what Zoro did at Thriller Bark, because, of course, as we all know, nothing happened at Thriller Bark.
Nothing.
So let's say it's a similar
Nothing at
scenario
all.
where Luffy is not made aware of this exchange, and Zoro has a price he has to pay. And maybe, in fact, he has already paid this price. Remember that scene back in Wano when he was fighting King right after he
When he
wins
literally
and he's
saw
on
death?
the ground and he's kind of fading in and out of
I swear to God,
consciousness?
I said this as well. If this is like Oda foreshadowing, literally Zoro coming face to face with death and peering through the curtain of death, and then like sometime later he's like, "Well, what do you mean? I showed you. I showed you. I literally showed you. It was death coming after Zoro. Like, what do you mean you're surprised?" You know?
And he meets the legitimate Grim Reaper. The actual avatar of death looms over Zoro as a haunting specter of the next life. Yeah,
That'd be a yikes.
that happened. It was never addressed after that. Zoro never says anything about it.
Of course he doesn't.
Nobody else says anything about it. So, must have just been a funny little scene that Oda drew for no reason, right? Yeah, no.
You don't put guns on walls for no reason. You know, a very very good writer once said that.
This specter that Zoro saw at Onigashima was not a comical kind of thing that, you know, is like, oh, it's like Brook instead. You know, a lot of people thought that at the time. Like, he sees the Grim Reaper and Zoro's kind of like, you know, he's hallucinating, he's blurry vision.
Yeah, no,
he's
that
fading
was
in and out
legit.
from his fight. And then it turns out the Grim Reaper was actually Brook the entire time, and he like saves Zoro and gets him to safety or something. That was not what this was. It is of my opinion that Zoro legitimately saw the Grim Reaper. He saw death himself coming for him. I'm going to throw out this scenario here. What if the Grim Reaper approaches Zoro and says, "Okay, look, man, I
We're gonna make
overlooked
it-
all
no.
these other
Oh no! If this is literally him like wanting to make a deal with Zoro or something, I would love that. I would love that. Like if this is like Bonsamdi from World of Warcraft, or like even whatchamacallit, like Ryuk from Death Note or something like that. They're like literally making a deal. Oh boy.
instances, but this is it right here. You took a combination attack from two emperors, for God's sake. You broke pretty much every damn bone in your body. Every major organ was ruptured. And you were able to save yourself through some weird mink medicine. But then you immediately fought the giant magma pteranodon dude. All right? Zoro's on the ground, and the Grim Reaper's there. And he's like, I can't overlook
I just gotta
this
do my
shit
job,
anymore,
you know what I mean?
All right? It's time to punch your clock. Your number's up. Let's go. What if Zoro legitimately made a deal with death? What if Zoro literally...
If Zoro has a timer on his life, this is something I've been thinking about as well. Like, ever since, I've said this before, right? Like, Zoro's eye, him seeing death, like, so many of these things are, like, they're ominous, you know? I still think the eye, I don't think it's gonna be anything, but Zoro literally seeing death, that is ominous. That is, like... Just like Tekking said, you don't draw that for no reason. Like, it isn't oh wow, Zoro fought so hard, the Grim Reaper came after him, wielding a scythe, you know? You don't draw that for no reason. So if there is an explicit timer on his life, which again, if it does eventually come to him sacrificing himself for, like, I don't know. I think him sacrificing himself for Sanji would be chef's kiss. I think going for Luffy would be too obvious. I think going for Sanji would hit so much harder. That's what I think.
Made, I guess not literally made a Faustian deal, because a Faustian deal is with, like, the devil. Death is not the devil, different kind of entities there. But what if it was something similar? What if Zoro literally looked death square in his bony eyes and
give me 2 years is what he said,
and told him, not yet. I will go with you, but I have to make sure that Luffy achieves his dream first. I have to see this journey through its end. I have to make sure we.
Oh my
reach
God,
the
I'm not
final
ready for
island.
that.
I have to make sure
I don't
that
want
my
to see
captain
that.
reaches Laugh Tale. No matter what the cost. I am willing to fight you right here and now if it means getting a couple of extra, months or whatever on this earth.
I think another interesting concept could be that Zoro, like you know how we heard that the sword cleaves through hell, right? And like he wielded so much power that he effectively almost killed himself because he cleaved through hell and literally brought up the Grim Reaper after him. So, like, it's basically his power becomes the ultimate kiss curse, and the next time he does something like that, it's like he brings up something else, you know, that actually finishes him off or something. Because I think also, like, it cleaves through hell. It's a cool thing to say about a sword, but, like, considering everything else that has happened, also seems kind of sus.
And what if the Grim Reaper... Okay. It's a deal. Reaches out the bony hand of death or whatever, just like... You know, whatever. And then Zoro loses consciousness. Ugh. Wakes up later after the fight. Chopper heals him and everything. And maybe Zoro himself doesn't even really remember it, or it's like it's fragmented. He kind of remembers it, but he can't really... Was that a dream? Was that real? I don't know. But here's the thing. Doesn't matter to Zoro. Doesn't matter if it was a dream or if it was reality. Because Zoro would lay down his life for his captain no matter what. So what if they reach the final island and death comes for Zoro? Like, everybody's happy, everybody rushes in.
This is exactly what I was thinking of. Like, if we reach Laugh Tale and it's like, he laughed, you know, and all that, and Zoro just collapses. Oh my god. Oh my god, can you imagine? Like, no, I don't think Oda would subvert, like, the big climax with something like that. But if he did, oh man.
What the One Piece really is.
I do not need another scene of Luffy cradling someone's body in his hands.
And Zoro stays behind. And then death appears over his shoulder, and it's like, it's time. And Zoro's like, he gently goes into that good night.
I don't want that.
Zoro, at the end of the
really
day, if it was for Luffy, he would die. There's no question about it. So let's say it happens, and Zoro dies. How would the crew respond to that? Let's start with Luffy first.
How would they respond to it? I think it'd be either we need to do everything we still need to do in his name, or we disband, and that is the end of the Straw Hat Pirates. Like, depending on where the story is at that moment, I think if someone dies, I think Luffy would literally just say it's over, it's over. Like, that's it. You know, this isn't like my brother dying. This is someone of mine dying. You know, I made this crew with the promise that I will take you to the end. I didn't. That's it. That's it. I think it depends on where we are.
Luffy would have a reaction to this. I mean, if any of the crew dies, obviously he would have a reaction similar to when Ace died.
Yes.
You know, he would have the moment.
In many ways, I think it'd be even stronger than with Ace, because I mean, obviously Ace was his brother, right? And there was that love between them. But I think with the crew, I think he just feels so much more responsibility. So it's not just I failed in saving you, but it's I failed in protecting you, which to me sort of feels it hits harder, right? Because you were responsible for this thing, and this happened.
Like, everything kind of slows down, and his, like, breathing shortens, and then he just kind of, like, he basically passes out. You know, that's the reaction I think he would have with most of the Straw Hats. But I feel like Zoro would be a unique example because he was literally the first person that Luffy asked to join the crew.
Yes.
Like, the Straw Hat crew effectively began on the day at Shellstown when Luffy asked Zoro to join, and Zoro said yes. And then they left Shellstown together in that tiny little dinghy, beginning the adventure. And like I said, with all the Straw Hats, this would be the case. But Luffy would have a, you know, I kind of caused this. He would have a sense of guilt here. Like, if I never would have asked him to join our crew, if I never would have met him, then he wouldn't have died. Now, Luffy, I feel, would feel that sense of crushing guilt over him, okay? Especially if Luffy did put the pieces together. Now, Luffy is not, you know, he's not the smartest.
I think we have a good example of this in Sabaody, right? Because for a brief moment, Luffy does think his crew is dying in front of him. And I think that is the closest we've seen to what would happen in Luffy's mind. Because, like, the first thing he did was fall to the ground and smash his head into the ground saying, I failed. I couldn't protect them. I couldn't protect any of them. If one of them died, it doesn't disappear. This is the most important thing. There's a video about this coming very soon. This is the most important thing. If someone dies, they're not disappearing. Sabaody was the kids' version of what would happen, right? In Sabaody, everyone poofed out of existence. It's great. No one's here. We're sad. If someone dies next to Luffy, we don't have that. Oh, it just happened. It is right here. And now you need to look at it and you need to deal with it. And what are you going to do now? You know? So I think in that sense, it would literally be, oh my god, I caused this. I could not protect you.
tack in the nail bomb.
And like if Zoro, I don't think Oda will do this because this is just like One Piece. If one of them doesn't fulfill their dreams, that is another thing that I think would just break Luffy. I don't think this is going to happen. I think everyone's going to finish what they want.
The hell, but if this happened and Zoro died because of some deal he made or some, like, basically all the things, you know, run up to like the check has to be cashed by somebody, and it's not going to be cashed by Luffy. Zoro is going to flip the bill on this. He's the one that's going to take care of it. All right. If Luffy ever connects the dots of, like, Zoro died so I may become the king.
Yeah.
Or Luffy ever figures out what Zoro did at Thriller Bark. Luffy's a goofy kind of guy, but he knows when to be serious, when to be serious.
I think in a situation like this is when we get Stone Cold Luffy. He's mad at Zoro for not telling him, and even more, 10 times more, he's mad at himself for not realizing it, for not being there to do it himself. You know, all those types of things. Because I think there would be a little bit of why didn't he tell me, but you know, that wouldn't be anger. It would just be sort of your immediate emotional reaction.
Yes. In fact, a great example of that is at Wano, at the very beginning of Wano, when he met Otama. And Otama talks about Ace and wanting to see him again. And Luffy just kind of looks at Otama right in her eyes and just says, Ace is dead.
Yep.
He's not coming back.
Yep. It's like it is what it is.
The way Luffy deals with trauma is probably not the best. But in this instance, I think it would just come out like massive, you know, just tears flowing on the ground, screaming and crying, and just like,
I don't need to see that. You know what? You know what? On second thought, maybe I don't want any of this to have to actually,
you know. One Piece is. It doesn't matter. King of the Pirates or whatever. I didn't care if I knew it was going to result in this payment. I wouldn't have ever done this. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I think
you also have to.
I think there's also an interesting dimension to be like, what was this pursuit even for? If ultimately one of us just ended up dying, you know, this was supposed to be the journey of a lifetime. We were supposed to journey the world together, and like, what was this for? You know, that type of deal.
Look at it from the perspective of Zoro of life.
Which, by the way, also would then start the question of, would Luffy, like, continue this sort of drive for the One Piece, right? Because obviously, when we first heard that Roger came down with a sickness, right? And then he decided to announce the One Piece, just like that. Obviously, my first inkling was like, well, Luffy's probably going to do the same exact thing. If anything happens, Luffy will announce another sort of type of deal, right? Because that's his thing. I want to give you freedom, sort of, I found freedom in doing this, so I will tell you the same thing. Just go out to the sea, find your dreams, you know? But if someone ends up dying with Luffy, that sort of, it sours the whole journey, you know? And at that point, would he want anyone to go on it?
We're pirates. We did not set out to sea to just have like a childish little, like to play a game, you know what I mean? Like, this was real. This was a real adventure. This was a real journey. And yes, Luffy, I think, was made aware multiple times that their lives were on the edge of this, you know? Like, I don't think...
What if the deal turns out to be sickness and Chopper cures it fulfilling a dream? I think that is the easiest way of going about it, which is why I don't think it would happen, you know? I think someone coming down with a fatal illness and Chopper just curing it would be the most obvious option, you know? It just seems sort of... He cures the ultimate thing, that's it. I don't know. I think that is something that is technically likely, right? Because that would be the peak of Chopper's dream. But at the same time, I think the peak of Chopper's dream might actually be curing the devil fruit disease, right? So that people can't swim. So that would be also another angle for Chopper of bringing, like, Luffy's dream to everyone, right? Not only can you have this devil fruit and it's no longer a curse, you can swim again, you know? It would be this sort of giving back your freedom or something like that.
Luffy's stupid enough to go into a battle with two Yonko at Onigashima and think to himself, oh yeah, we'll probably come out all of this perfectly fine, we'll be good. I'm sure Luffy's not going to actively sit around and think like, oh, some of my crew might die from this, but he's like, this is serious, this is real. And the best way to cement the realness of this would be the death of Zoro. More so than...
This is why I think someone is dying in the final saga. I think it's literally going to be... Like, a lot of bigger things have happened in the final saga, but we still haven't seen anything permanent. Everything we've seen thus far is big events are happening, nothing has been permanent. Nothing very bad has happened.
Than I think any other member of the crew. You have been with me since the very beginning. And Zoro understands what that means to be the first mate. And so he dies, but he also, maybe like his last words to Luffy would be something along the lines of, hey man, this is what you wanted. We all set out to see, we were doing this for real.
I don't know why, but that sounds so bad. Oh my god, that sounds so bad. Like, maybe this is just my brain working in a weird way, but if someone was dying and it's like, you wanted this, I'd be like, what? Are you telling me I killed you? Oh no, that would be real bad.
Real. You wanted to be king of the pirates. This is not a game. This is not a joke. We were not playing pirates.
It is what it is,
pirates.
But it's getting yikes.
I am giving up my life
for you,
so that you can achieve that dream.
I think for Luffy, it would be again, we lost someone. So it sort of depends on where we are. It's exactly what I said before. Either we now have to do everything each and every one of us wants, because that's what Zoro would have wanted and that's what Zoro died for, or like if we've already done that, I think it's the Straw Hats are dissolved and that's it.
This was not going to be easy. And here we are. But we all believed in you. Zoro especially believed in Luffy. So here you go. You have it. So honestly, I could see Zoro kind of being like, don't besmirch my memory by saying you never wanted the One Piece. You never wanted to be king of the pirates.
It's like that. It's what he would have wanted.
It's what you say at the end of every damn episode, Luffy. Okay. Well, I had to pay the ultimate sacrifice so that you could achieve this. And you should have expected this might have happened. This could have went down this way. So don't say anything like, I don't want the One Piece. I wish it would have never happened. No. Don't let it be like that. You have it now. You have.
Oh my god! I'm just imagining a scene where Zoro is dying and Luffy's crying like, "Oh my god! If I knew this was oh no!" Like if he's crying and saying, "If I knew this would happen, I would have never done anything. I would have never freed you there." Actually, no. Zoro would have died anyway. But it would be like, "I never would have set out to the sea. I would have never done any of this." And Zoro's just like, "No, this is what we were working toward. Go and get it. Like this is what we." Oh my god! Something like that seems like so One Piece. I don't want it to be true.
Have the title.
No.
And all it took was me walking into the next life.
Let's not do that.
There it is.
Let's not do that.
Of course, that wouldn't make it... I might have made it actually a little bit easier for Luffy at that point. Maybe he would be like, yeah, you're right.
No, I don't want this.
And actually, that would actually be a really serious moment where Luffy could actually maybe sit down with the rest of the crew and just be like, I've thought about it. I've thought about, each and every one of you dying at some point. You know what I mean? Like it could have happened multiple times, I just never talked about it because it's kind of macabre and grim. Hopefully maybe somebody on YouTube will talk about it and it'll be super awkward for everybody. But here we are, So, I mean, that would be a moment. That would be a hefty moment there. But I'll tell you what, out of all the Straw Hats, I could see Zoro paying that price more than Nami, more than Sanji, more than any of them. And paying it willingly. And paying
I think another thing that's important to note with Zoro is that Luffy did literally save him. Like their first meeting was Luffy saving him. Whereas with all the others, he sort of, like, for example, with Nami, he freed her from slavery, basically, is what he did. So technically, yes, he freed her from all that burden, but with Zoro, he literally saved his life. Later, he also does it to a bunch of others, like with Robin, right? He literally gives her a reason to live. But with Zoro, the first thing he does is save him from death. And then he sort of repays that. I don't want that.
Okay.
We don't want this.
And you can't say it wasn't foreshadowed. You couldn't say that, like, something like that was not set up or established way earlier on in the story. This kind of behavior that Zoro exhibits, of, like, sacrificing himself for Luffy, this has occurred multiple times already in the story. Okay? Many times. And him trying to take that burden onto himself. So if that's what it ultimately resulted in, yeah. Actually, by the way, before I forget, I want to also bring that parallel up right here. Roger's crew. Roger, the captain. Rayleigh, the vice captain.
That's exactly what I thought about.
Roger dies, gives himself over, sacrifices himself, as it were. Rayleigh continues on the legacy. Straw Hat Pirates. Luffy, captain. Zoro, vice captain. Reversed. Luffy, the captain, lives on as king of the pirates. Zoro, the vice captain, pays that sacrifice. Just throwing it out there. How would Sanji react to this? I'm not going to go through every single member of the Straw Hats because I'd have to do that for every single video. Like, how would Chopper respond to Zoro's death? How would Robin respond to Zoro's death?
This Void Month, because I've been working on a bunch of One Piece stuff now that I'm completely caught up, I've been thinking a lot about Zoro and Sanji. You know, because it's been a meme on the channel, and you know, because of all that, and I've been thinking of an entirely different video. So I want to see what he has to say about Sanji, but I think Sanji and Zoro are such an interesting dynamic. I need to talk about this more.
How would Frankie respond?
I think Sanji would be really, really hit hard, but I think it'd be a case, like we saw with Whole Cake, that he sort of disassociates, right? And he tried to push it away, because it, like, hurts that much.
Respond to Zoro's death. I'm not going to do that with each and every Straw Hat. But I will do that with Straw Hats where it's relevant. And with Sanji, I feel like that's really relevant, because, you know, they have their sort of rivalry there, but they still, I mean, they view each other as the same member of the crew as Nakama. It's more of like a sibling rivalry kind of situation, right?
Which, by the way, I do think it is literally sibling rivalry, because I think it's sort of a reminder for Sanji of his brothers, right? Where they were sort of powerful and blah 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 blah.
But make no mistake, if Zoro were to die, actually die, Sanji would be devastated.
Yes.
Sanji would be devastated.
1,000,000%.
He might take it out in rage at first, you know, you stupid Mossad, you know, something like that. But at the end of the day, he would feel very upset. And remember the scene at Thriller Bark when Zoro was about to offer
doing the same
himself
thing
to Kuma. Sanji appears and he's like, hey, no.
Again, this is why I say I think this is what's going to happen. Zoro pushed Sanji out of the way, saying that go do your thing. What I do is swing the sword. That's it. Let me sacrifice. Let me take this L. That's it. That is why I think Zoro sacrificing himself for Sanji is what's most likely to happen. He will tell him, stop doing this. Go and pursue your dream. Go find the All Blue. I just swing my sword.
You know, Luffy needs to survive, and so do you. So I'm going to be the one to offer myself.
Yes.
So Sanji would, and we'll cover this when we get to Sanji's video, but Sanji would have given his life for Luffy just as well as Zoro would, and a lot of the other Straw Hats would as well. Like, I don't want to paint the picture that the only people that would sacrifice themselves for Luffy.
Exactly. I talk all about Zoro, but I think literally everyone on the crew would give their lives for Luffy in an instant. Just like I think any of them would give their lives for basically anyone on the crew.
His goal is Zoro and Sanji, and that's it. Nami would, Usopp would, Chopper would. I'm just saying that, like, there's a hierarchy in the crew. There's sort of a position here, and that's why
I just imagine Usopp. Just imagine Usopp's last moments being screaming about how he became a legend. It's like his way of coping with his own death being imminent. He's like, I did it, Luffy. I became a legend. That's it. That's it.
Why Zoro knocked Sanji's ass out at Thriller Bark and said, hey, no, you get down. This is my job. I'm the vice captain. I'm the one that does this, okay? I'm the one that has to handle this.
Is what I probably titled the video or something like that.
All right? Because that's the way it is. That's the way the crew is structured. I was the first one he asked, so that's my job. Okay? So Sanji, though, despite that, despite knowing Zoro's viewpoints on the matter, would still be like, it should have been me. Sanji would be like, it should have been me. I should have been the one to give of myself, so then Zoro could have still be alive, and then because Luffy's gonna need Zoro or whatever. But that might cause Sanji to step up a bit and might be like, okay, well,
my writing brain, whenever he says this, is like, to me, immediately imagine a scene of like, if only I would have been there, and it's like, oh,
Zoro's gone now.
No.
Luffy still needs people to support him though, so I'm gonna stick around, something like that, you know. All the Straw Hats, actually, oh wow, I didn't even think of that angle with it. Let's say all the Straw Hats were together, right? You know, like none of them die. End of the story. Luffy might be like, okay, everybody, we all made it through. Disband the crew. But what if it's the exact opposite? What if it's like, now that Zoro's gone, the crew should stay together now more than ever?
Oh.
Sanji, of course, had the scene with Zoro at Wano where he was like, hey, when he...
That is actually really, really interesting. And that makes so much sense. It's like, it's exactly how you do with like your old class, right? It's like something happens and we will stay together because of what happened, you know? That's really interesting. I didn't even think of that. That makes so much sense as well. But I mean, yeah, now we have both directly opposite scenarios. That does make sense.
He was
afraid
of like turning into a member of the Jerma like his brothers. He was like, hey, Zoro, if things don't work out, then I want you to end it, okay? And Zoro, without even a second thought, is like, yeah, sure. Now, you could say that, like, Zoro and Sanji, they have that rivalry, that back and forth. So it's like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. I'll be the one to end you personally, of course. You know, ha, 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 it's funny. No, it's... Sanji came to Zoro with a very...
You have no idea how much I would have wanted to see a scene like that. I would have wanted to see what happens. Like, I think Oda could have written some fire there. If something actually happened to Sanji and Zoro would need to figure out, what do I do now? Obviously, he didn't, because he peered through the curtain of death. But you know.
Very serious request, and then Zoro responded in kind, just very seriously. It's like, okay, all right, yeah. If you become somebody you're not, and if you want me to do that, then that's my duty. I will do that, because they are friends. They are friends. They are.
No shot. It would have been just like, I kill you. No shot.
In Wano, we had the moment where they were like, "Oh, we are the wings. Luffy's going to become the Pirate King, and then we were the right and left arms that are going to get him there." Or I guess Zoro would be the right arm, Sanji would be the right leg in that instance. You know, we will get him there. Or as we're the wings of the Pirate King, as it is. Okay, so that's the implication, right? You have Luffy becoming the Pirate King, Sanji and Zoro. So when it comes down to it, they are the monster trio. Sanji was not the third person to join, or I guess the second person to join if you don't count Luffy. So it goes, Zoro, and then it was Nami, and then Usopp, and then Sanji. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Zoro and Sanji representing the wings of the Pirate King. They will be the ones. And if it came down to it where 2 Straw Hats had to die, I know we're getting really intense with this here, but if it came down to it and 2 of them had to die, it would be Zoro and Sanji, if that meant Luffy achieving his dreams. And they would do that instantly. No questions asked. Where would Zoro be buried? Where would his last resting place be?
Gotta be next to Kuina, right? There's gotta be next to Kuina.
I feel like there would be no better place for it to be.
Or on Laugh Tale.
Back at Shimosuke Village.
Yeah.
Right next to the grave of
Kuina. Yes.
I mean, that's just the perfect place for him to be buried, honestly. Or if you want to go about it like, they used to train in a particular area, so they'll be like he's laid to rest there. But we've actually seen Kuina's grave in the story.
We saw that explicitly.
Series. It's in just like a cemetery, I think. Unless she's not actually buried there and it turns out she's still alive or whatever. But Zoro returning.
We're going serious mode. If Kuina is alive, I won't even say a word.
Best friend, right? And
along
with that line, Zoro's probably last thoughts as he was about to die, he would be thinking, just like as in his fight.
If we see, okay, another writing thing that immediately pops into my mind. If we see through Zoro's eyes, as you know that typical thing of his blinking slowing down, and we see his point of view, and he looks down and he sees the sword, and the only question he asks is, "Did I fulfill my promise?" And then he dies. Don't do that. Don't.
Fight with King. He's like, I made a promise to my captain and my best friend. Now, a lot of people have taken that line to mean, like, Luffy is his captain, but is also his best friend. I took it to mean that he means Luffy, his captain, and Kuina, his best friend. So
I saw about this, and obviously, like, him calling Luffy his best friend would be very wholesome, but I do think it's literally just him talking about Kuina, because that is why he's a swordsman.
Kuina and Luffy are both the driving forces in Zoro's mind.
Like, it doesn't mean that Luffy can be his best friend as well. There's this concept of having multiple best friends. The best is sort of trivial. You don't really put labels on people like that.
For a lot of his long-term goals, okay? He has basically 2 dreams. One to make Luffy king of the pirates to achieve his dream, and then his own dream, his personal dream of becoming the greatest swordsman in the world, okay? So I imagine as he's fading out, he would be happy that one of his dreams has been achieved, and that was the dream that became his real dream. His first and foremost dream in the world was to make Luffy king of the pirates, and he achieved that. But as he would be dying, as he lays dying, he would also think about his friend Kuina. And you could even imagine, like, as he's fading out, as the Grim Reaper carries him off into the underworld, maybe you could even see, like, an image of Kuina appear next to him or something and just be like, Zoro kind of apologizing to her. Like, I'm sorry I couldn't achieve our dream.
Like, looking at the sword, then it fades into the bamboo sword, and then he looks at Kuina and he asks, did I do good? Was I a good swordsman? And then Kuina says, no, you were the best one. And then they walk off into the other plane of existence. You know what? I've spent 40 minutes talking about, I don't want this to happen.
Become the greatest swordsman in the world.
We don't want this anymore.
Kuina would probably be like, it's okay. You vastly surpassed any kind of expectation. You are the greatest swordsman in the world, Zoro, and you also helped out your captain. So let's go. The funeral for Zoro. Yeah, we're going all in on this. Yeah,
no.
funeral for Zoro, right? You have the moment where who's going to be there? Obviously the Straw Hats, but also like Mihawk. Mihawk, I feel like would be there. Perona would definitely be there.
I was about to say, like, it's hard to say, right? He spent 2 years with him. He has spent more time with Ghost Girl and Mihawk than he has with the Straw Hats. So I do think that there is a very weird but very, very strong bond between him and Mihawk. So that's another scenario I think would be interesting to explore. Like, what if he died in front of Mihawk? What would Mihawk tell him? Like obviously the question would be, did I do it? Was I the best? What does Mihawk say in that situation? Does he say, of course you were? You surpassed me long ago? Something like that? I don't know.
Obviously, if it takes place at the village, you would have Koshiro. He would be there. All the students in the village would be there as well. And Tashigi, Smoker, they would, of course, attend. Tashigi would be really upset about it, honestly. Maybe she never told Zoro how she really feels about him or something like that. Mihawk, seeing Mihawk there would be really, like, heavy. You know what I mean?
It would.
Mihawk there is, like, looking down at Zoro.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mihawk is one of those guys who, like, who we see him from behind the tree, and he's just sort of there, all in black, and it's just like he's standing there, like, I mean, I'm here. I don't want to see this, but I am here out of respect, Like, I don't want to see this because it hurts, in that sort of sense.
His body and thinking to himself, like, this is the man that literally had the potential to surpass me, and now he's gone. And now this is now the second time in Mihawk's life he's had to, like, he was fighting Shanks, worthy opponent.
And Shanks lost his arm.
An arm, so no longer a worthy opponent. And then he has Zoro, who he sees kind of like a glimmer of hope way back at the Baratier. Mihawk was like, this is the man that could maybe surpass me someday. He just has to get stronger. And then he personally trains him during the time skip. And he's like, he's going to be the one to surpass me. He's going to do this. And he's all ready to pass the mantle on to him. And then, have one final battle with Zoro, and then he becomes the greatest swordsman in the world. Whatever. Gives Yoru over to Zoro or something like that. And then Zoro dies before that could happen. I could see Zoro I could see Mihawk at the funeral next to Perona and everybody. Very somber, very stoic as he normally is. But then I could see him, like, walking away from the crowd and just looking out over the sea. And then, like a single tear falls down Mihawk's face. And then he just leaves. I
don't want to think about these sorts of things. I'm just thinking, like, now I'm getting into Mihawk's head, right? And it's sort of this pursuit of a worthy opponent, and sort of the, like, again, is this extreme thrive for strength and like a purpose. Like, his only purpose is to find a worthy opponent. It's One Punch Man. It's One Punch Man.
Rather inconsiderate point to make at this moment in the video, but who gets Zoro's swords? I mean, like,
ship them to me.
Like, it's a legitimate question, right? I mean, we have Enma, who's
like, I think it might be stabbed into the ground. I think that'd be fitting. You just leave it there. It was his.
Like the greatest.
Though they always pass them on, so I don't think it really makes sense.
Sword of all time, forged by Kozaburo Shimosuke. And then we have the Wado, and then we have the Sandai. Like, who gets Zoro's swords? I mean, it's going to be a little bit more somber than this. This isn't like a D&D campaign where we, like, one piece.
These items drop on the ground. First person to grab it, you're soulbound.
D&D is like, all right, who gets the swords? It's just like, all right, well, let's divvy them up. You know what I mean? But no, seriously, okay. Well, the Wado would go back to Koshiro easily. Probably the Enma would as well, since the Enma was forged by his father, Kozaburo. Was Koshiro's
they passed
father.
The blades on.
So Enma and Wado were both forged by the same guy. Would probably just go back to the dojo. The custom in Wano, specifically in the Ringo region, is that when you are buried, your sword that you use throughout your life becomes your grave marker.
Yeah,
so
that's what it said, right? It would be stabbed into the ground. It's just like a sort of a grave marker for him.
Zoro's grave marker, and Kuina's as well, I guess, if they were buried next to each other. Is kind
usually
of
they pass them on.
Since Kuina had the blade ever since she was a kid, and then she died, and then it got passed to Zoro. So them both having gravestones next to each other, with, like, sharing the Wado Ichimonji between them, that actually is very fitting. Enma, I feel, would go back to Koshiro. Maybe Enma would make a journey to Wano. But, it's his father that made the things, so I imagine he would keep it unless he wants it to be in the hands of, like, Sukiyake or Momonosuke, like, to keep it in that land. So maybe Koshiro makes a journey back to the land of Wano and presents it to the Shogun and be like, this was forged by my father, Kozaburo Shimosuke. However, it was forged as a gift for Oden Kozuki. He was the one that was supposed to have it. So Zoro is now gone. I am returning this blade to you, Shogun Momonosuke. And so Momonosuke now has Ame no Habakiri.
Imagine if that's how he learns of it.
As Oden, his father, had both of them. So you could kind of see it like that too.
Why are you bringing this sword to me? The wielder died. Oh no.
That's kind of like a that's sort of like a full circle kind of thing. And as for the Sandai, kind of the same thing. With the Sandai
I just love it. This is like that Charlie video of him pulling out the rifle. It's like they're clips. This is my guy just pulling out swords.
Forged by Tenguyama Hitetsu, who we later find out is actually, Sukiyaki Kozuki, who is Oden's father. So in that regard, I could see Koshiro returning at least the Sandai to Sukiyaki. Be like, this is the sword that you originally forged. It ended up in the East Blue by happen chance over the years. We still don't really know the whole story behind that. Probably one of the people that left Wano had the sword, and then the sword ended up at Ippon Matsu's shop. I don't think it would go back to Ippon Matsu. I don't think Ippon Matsu wants the Sandai again.
I don't even know who that is.
But you probably return it to Sukiyaki and give it to him. So best case scenario, the Wado would be the grave marker for Zoro and Kuina. The Sandai would be returned to Sukiyaki, and alongside the Nidai Katetsu, so he would have both. And then Enma would be returned to Momonosuke, or just kept in the dojo, one of the two. But yeah, that's what happens with the swords.
I think I prefer the route of them just dropping as legendaries, and whoever picks them up, they're soulbound. That's it.
You can imagine there's going to be a big ass Zoro statue at Shimosuke Village. There's going to be a really cool, there's going to be a grave marker for Zoro himself next to Kuina, but like somewhere in the village, there's going to be a really cool statue, and it's going to be of Zoro, and I want him to be in the exact same pose he was in at Little Garden with the cake, with the wax cake thing that they did, Mr. 3 and everybody. So he's like holding out his sword like this.
I don't want that. You know why? Because I could never rewatch One Piece again. Imagine seeing this and then knowing that this is how he dies. Like this is the statue of him after he dies. I don't want this as a reminder. I don't.
I want that to be the statue. I want that to be
really don't.
The permanent memorial to Roronoa Zoro and all of his legacy and his memory. And I could see the Straw Hats. It's kind of similar to like Sabo visiting Ace's grave and Whitebeard's grave and pouring like the sake cups. I could see every once in a while the Straw Hats will come to Shimosuke Village, maybe on the anniversary or around it, and pour out a bottle of...
What's Zoro's favorite food? Because if there's a scene of Sanji bringing a dish of Zoro's favorite food and putting it on the grave, I think I would actually just like... Because Sanji's whole thing is not wasting food, and he brings it to Zoro's grave. It's not wasting food. It's bringing it... Oh no.
Sake for
We
Zoro.
don't want this. We don't want this.
He loves his sake, right?
We don't want this.
And so...
We don't want this.
Luffy, though...
We don't want this at all anymore.
...would take that position now as King of the Pirates more seriously than he ever would have before. Because there was a price that had to be paid to reach it. It wasn't just like, oh, I want to be King of the Pirates. Okay, everybody, let's get together on our ship and let's travel. Oh, we're having all these fun, wacky adventures. Okay, we finally reached the end. All right, I became King of the Pirates. All my friends are here. Everything's perfect. But now that somebody died, Luffy's going to take that title of King of the Pirates seriously. Not to say he wouldn't have taken it seriously beforehand, but he's going to take it.
Because that's been like sort of my thinking, right? The whole King of the Pirates thing. I think Buggy will get the title and Luffy will be the actual one. That's sort of what I've been thinking for the past while now. It's like Buggy will be King of the Pirates in name, and because Luffy won't really care about the title, right? It would have just been a thing for him, the status of being it. So if someone does die, then I do think it would be a case of I have to honor this title because of what I lost,
Seriously now. He's going to understand the weight and the scope of what this means to be King of the Pirates and what had to be paid in order for him to reach that, to get to the top of that throne, okay? And Luffy's going to maintain that position of power. I mean, that's really what it is, King of the Pirates, okay? And he's going to make sure that Zoro's death was not in vain for that reason. Of course, people died along the way. Ace died along the way. The Mary was burned.
I think Ace is like Ace was very much a price to be paid, right? Ace was the price to be paid for Luffy to wake up that the journey isn't sunshine and rainbows. That is what Sabaody did, right? And that's what Marineford did. Ace is the thing that saved Luffy and the entire Straw Hat fleet from certain death upon entering the New World. That is what Ace was. So, if Zoro is the price at the end, I don't want that.
Along the way, so it's not all fun and adventures and wacky stuff and everything like that. But I feel like, yeah, reaching the final island and then finding out one of your crewmates dies, one of your Nakama, you reach the final point, and then it's just like, that has to happen. That would hit really home in a different way. Okay.
Said this before. If this is how Oda tackles the final island, they laughed, and Zoro passes out, I will.
Oh, how did that go? Are you still having a good day?
No,
I'm not sure.
I spent
we'll
50 minutes talking about this.
I guess. If the reaction of this video is, I don't know if positive is the right word to say, but if it's like, make more of these, I guess we will.
I think there was another one.
If it feels off, if it's just not right, like if it's like a lot of people are like, hey, teching, this is a really kind of...
I think a lot of these things are really interesting to explore, and I know a lot of people don't really want to explore these things. I don't really care how likely they are. I think these sorts of things help you appreciate the characters and sort of the interpersonal relationships that could happen, right? Because when you think, if Zoro dies, what happens to the rest? Naturally, what you're actually exploring is what was that bond before he died, right? So it's not like his death angle isn't really the most important in everything we're discussing right now. It's sort of like what happens after that, and why did that happen? So at the end of the day, I think we're just talking about the character dynamics. Even though immediately in my mind, I've constructed 50 billion scenarios where we get the saddest sad of all sads. I don't want this to happen anymore. I thought this was a fun video, but I don't want this to be true.
I want you talking about this kind of stuff. It's a little bit too grim.
Let's
move back to the fun One Piece stuff.
I like it.
Like, all right, then maybe I'll just shell this and just put it back on a thing. But
I think there is another one, which means there'll be more of these. I'm gonna watch all of these.
The idea was to make the whole series, so we'll see how this one goes, and we'll go from there. But thanks for watching the video, I suppose. With that being said,
this is the face of a man who has just talked about a potential death of a 20-year-old character for 32 minutes. Oh my god.
Hecking signing out.
This is a really, really good video. Yeah. Oh my god. Do I want to watch
Greetings.
this? Do I want to watch this? I don't think I do. Hold on. Let me link it in chat. Okay. I've realized, as much as I talk about people dying in One Piece, after spending 50 minutes thinking about it, I've come to the realization that maybe it was a silly idea. When I really get down to it, and I think about the prospects, it makes me really sad. So I don't think I want this to happen. So to summarize, and I will make a video about this, it's in the early scripting stages. If it does get past the early scripting stages, you'll see a video about this. But I do think that if something like this does happen, it will come down to not Luffy and Zoro, but I think it will come down to Luffy and not Luffy and Sanji, but Zoro and Sanji, because I think that would hit so much harder. And then Luffy will sort of be the third one there who finds out of what happened. But yes, very, very good video. I enjoyed this. We're gonna watch the next one at some point. Probably not now, because it is 32 minutes long, and this one took me 53 minutes to get through. So I don't think we're gonna spend another hour. So,